I'm not here to tell you why it's happening. I do understand why it's happening. It's happening because all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And ever since Adam sinned, this whole earth has been in turmoil until such time as God reclaims it again. And so until that time happens, things will happen like this. Daniel, the book, is often neglected and misunderstood. It's a story of God's favor on his people despite being in captivity. It's about God's will being worked out in the lives of his people despite their surroundings. It's a visionary and prophetic book of the present and future time. This particular story intrigues me because it teaches us how to walk with God in faith despite certain and grave circumstances around us. Ladies and gentlemen, we face certain and grave circumstances around us. Each day I wake up, I log on to CDC, and I see where the climb is, how many new cases we've had, how many deaths we've had, ultimately because the measure by which the secular world is measuring this disease is, will the incline flatline? And many of the things that they have asked us to do, to include social distancing, is a precursor or a means to which we can limit the transmission of the disease. I want to take a pause there and encourage you that the policy is social distancing, not social exclusion. It is not meant for us distance each other for good. It's not meant for us to put each other away, put back, hide in a closet, hide in our homes, close the shutters, lock the doors, lock everything up. Can I tell you that if you have an air conditioning system in your house, it is pulling air from the outside in. Now, granted, you might lock your house down, lock your shades down, but it's not inescapable. Now, I do agree and understand that the disease is not airborne, but I just want to give you some idea that don't live in your home in fear, locked up like you can't go outside. In fact, it's healthy for you to go outside. It's needed for you to go outside. Just realize when you go outside, don't congregate in large crowds. The 6-foot distance is the same distance, oddly enough. When they bury you 6 feet deep. But the enemy is trying to tell us that the 6-foot would crush and kill relationships. I've come to tell you that from 6 feet away, I can show you enough love to know and help you know that you are still alive and God is still on the throne. Social distancing does not mean social exclusion. And I just need some faith-standing Christians that will not be afraid to identify that God is still on the throne and COVID-19 is not a death sentence despite what others might say. I've seen all kinds of remedies, tried all kinds of remedies. Can I tell you that the God I serve says that the death angel shall not come nigh unto me? Doesn't mean I'm going to be foolish. It doesn't mean I disregard my hygiene. Doesn't mean I'm going to be reckless. But it does mean that I'm not going to react in fear, but I'm going to act in faith. A couple of points and I'll be out your way. Number one is that whenever God is about to move, something has to die. You see, because despite Daniel's poise and fame, by Daniel chapter 2, Daniel is in good graces with the king. Daniel has been established as one of the wisdom or wise men of the kingdom. But despite everything that he has accomplished to this point, even Daniel receives a death sentence. I want to tell you today as I preach, don't fear the one who did not give you life. You want to be afraid of something, have godly fear, for the God who created you gave you the 10 commandments for you to abide by. Do that. Have you ever been in a situation where it seems like your position seems to be up for grabs? a once solid, grounded, foundational. There's nothing that could potentially happen to move you. Now somehow has been snatched out from under you, crumbled away from you, pulled up, turned upside down, and now what seemed to be a bright, certain future is now topsy-turvy. Can I tell you that God is trying to get a message to you? He's about to do something, and he can't do it because you're on a path away from him. Have you ever had one secure ideas? Come on, those of you who invested, come on. What secure investment did you once have that 2 weeks ago seemed like it was a bank for your retirement, but today has been turned upside down? What you once thought was a sure thing, was always going to make money, now is losing money like it's got a drain in the bottom. Can I tell you, that's just God trying to tell you that he is your supplier, and the stock market does not decide what God will or will not do. That what you have invested was good, but God is the one who decides what percentage it will return. Have you ever been in a situation where your dreams seem to pass from not now, but to never? What you thought was just around the corner, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, seems to be so far away that you even wonder, why did I dream about this at all? Can I tell you, God is the one who gives dreams. God is the one who answers those dreams, and just keep holding on a little bit longer. Put your trust in him and don't react in fear. I still don't understand this toilet paper thing. I put out a call. If somebody can figure it out and let me know. I don't understand how buying all this toilet paper saves you from COVID. Maybe you're stuffing toilet paper in the keyhole. I don't know. Maybe you're going to do it to your neighbor's yard to get to know. I don't know. But there's a whole lot of toilet paper I don't understand. I've read the CDC documents. I don't get it. Why are we acting in fear? The disease doesn't give you diarrhea. I don't understand. Why are we buying up all the toilet paper? See people fighting over toilet paper in the streets. Why? My God. Our plans. Have you ever been in a situation where your plans seem to be destroyed? Or if not destroyed, at least permanently delayed. Everything around you seems to be up for discussion. What once seems to be foundational granite now is turned to sinking sand. Whenever God is about to move, everything that's not like him, everything that's not for him, everything does not benefit you in his will die. I've got a word for you. When stuff around you starts to die, get to know that God is about to move something. I am not saying, let me say this clearly, I am not saying that God is killing people with COVID-19. I am not saying that God is pleased with people dying from COVID-19. What I am saying is God is moving despite what we see the news media and others say. That's what I'm saying. I find it interesting, you know, if you go back, I'm a historian, and when I look back at history, I can tell you that what's happened to this country is we are losing the favor of God. We used to be a nation that no one would even dare come against us. And now, not only do our enemies no longer fear us, but even disease no longer fears us. Our mighty, once and still best in the world, cannot react to a single molecular, biological disease that we are experiencing around the world. If that doesn't tell you God is in control, I'm not sure what will. The best antibiotics out there are having a hard time fighting this disease. That's why I put my trust in God. I invest in Blue Shield, but my shield of faith is the real deal. Let me say that again. Let me say that again. I invest in Blue Shield, but my shield of faith is the real deal. The Bible says that the shield of faith shall extinguish every fiery dart of the enemy. So number one, when God is about to move, something has to die. Number two is prayer is great, but group prayer is better. Let me show you what Daniel does. What Daniel does in Daniel chapter 2, in verse, I think it's 17, it says this, that Daniel returns to his house. You see, because Daniel was put on social distancing. You'll get that on your way home. Daniel returns to his house and explains the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And he urges them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. No. He urges them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men. That's an interesting prayer. That's an interesting prayer. Why wouldn't Daniel just tell his friends, hey, can you ask God to tell me the dream? Why didn't Daniel just ask God to tell me the dream? Remember, this is Daniel, right? We learned in later chapters that the angels come when Daniel calls. But even Daniel, the great prayer individual warrior, in this situation goes and urges his friends to pray. Living Faith Christian Center, I don't want you to lose on the mystery and power of God that just 2 Sundays ago, before all of this hit for real in the United States, God gave us a word from this very pulpit that said, don't let Jesus find you sleeping in the middle of night. That you better get up, you better be prayed up, and you better be ready to pray for the long haul and not just a few moments till your eyelids get tired. I have seen people on social media who started out this whole thing with praise the Lord, hallelujah, now turn of days to what are we going to do next? What's going to happen next? Why is this what happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. You let fear sink in and faith seep out. Fear and faith cannot coexist in the same place. And so either you're going to walk in fear or you're going to walk in prayer. But prayer is great. Group prayer is better. Pray with faith, not fear. I think that I see some folks who pray out of fear and not faith. Pray through the night till you get an answer. Can I help you with this? Be willing to accept the answer no matter what it turns out to be. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were talking about this idea. Yes, I know we are not, Pastor Tisha and I are not proposing some strange and off-the-wall civil obedience. We express to those who have any kind of reservations to not attend, those who are met those, work with those not feeling well, sick in any way. Please join us live that we might speak to you and pray with you. But can I tell you that one of the things she said to me that I thought was absolutely profound, she said, what are we afraid of? If we die, we go to a better place. Now, I understand that notion is strange to some. And although I embrace it wholeheartedly, it does not mean I do not have favor or joy in future life. I'd love to see my granddaughter get married. I'd love to see my next grandchild be born. Yeah, you thought I was going to give it up. I didn't. You thought my next grandchild be born. But if today is my last day, if I never preach again, if I never get a chance to stand behind the sacred desk, can I tell you that next Sunday, I will be on a balcony looking down from heaven, and I will get a worship on like you ain't never seen before. When God is about to move, something has to die. Prayer is great, but group prayer is better. Can I tell you, get involved. Pray with faith and not fear. Pray till you get an answer. Pray through the night. 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 Because it's only getting darker. I know we've gone through daylight saving times and the day is getting longer. Can I tell you that ain't true spiritually? Number 3, don't despise the one who the Lord chooses to move you off center. Don't despise the one or the method or the incident or the situation that God uses to move you off center. Go with me back to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 36. Listen to what it says here. I'm sorry, verse 24. Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon. Pause there for a moment. So now Daniel, who was on home arrest, awaiting the order to be killed by the one whom the king had ordered, Mr. Arioch, Daniel leaves his home and goes to Arioch and says an interesting thing to him. Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him. And the Bible says that Arioch took Daniel to the king at once. Now, help me understand this exchange. You're Arioch. You've been told by the king, kill them wise men, because they can't tell me what's going on. One of them wise men shows up to you and says, take me to the king. Now, I don't know about you. Maybe it's just me. Well, I think I would have asked Daniel, maybe you want to tell me the dream first. Maybe you want to tell me the interpretation first before I take you to the king. Because remember, what's happening here is Arioch is on the chopping block too. Because he's been charged to kill the wise men that can't answer the dream. So if Arioch takes Daniel to the king, listen to what Arioch says next. He says, I have found a man amongst the exiles from Judah who can tell the king what his dream means. How did Arioch know that? And Arioch now, who's standing before the king, he's hoping, I hope this dude is the real deal. Because if he can't answer the king's dream, then not only is he dead, but I'm dead too. I've come to talk to somebody today that COVID-19 is going to put you in some positions, and people may not understand the words that you are using, may not understand the God that you are claiming, may not understand the faith that you are walking. But can I tell you, it don't matter what they think. It don't matter what they can do to you. My God is able. My God is able. My God is able. Stop worrying about bringing up people with you, even though they have not paid the same price you did. Stop putting up or putting away or fussing with people who God has called you to bring alongside, bring up and bring when they're not willing to pay the same price you are. But I've got to tell you that God has called you to bring them up, encourage them, walk with them. Just because they're not willing to pay the price you are does not make them ineligible for God's divine appointment. Can I give you the parable that Jesus said? Remember, he said, and there was a farmer who needed some workers, and early in the day, he hired some folk, and he told them, I'm going to pay you 2 pence. And 3 hours later, he hired some more folks and paid them 2 pence. 3 hours later, he hired some more folks and paid them 3 pence. And when there was only 3 hours left in the day, he hired some more folks, and he paid everybody that worked that day the same amount. And the workers said to him, how then can you pay those who only worked a few short hours the same payment you gave me who worked all day? And the Lord of the land says, who are you to ask me how much I will pay them? I will pay them what I will. It's time for the church to love on folks who are working out their faith, who are working this thing out, who don't understand just like you don't understand, who aren't willing like you are willing. But can I tell you, they are children of God, called of God, working this all out for their good. And it is time for us to love them right where they are. We got to learn to tell the truth with compassion. Can I tell you something, especially now, pride parading as faith is false. We got some folks who are walking around in pride as if it was faith, and it's just false. I got a comment for you. Don't test God. Don't test the enemy. If you don't have faith for it, don't act like you do. Don't despise the one who the Lord chooses to move off. Can I tell you, give God credit. Arioch was taking a chance with Daniel. He had to walk out faith he did not have, making a statement like he did. Come, King, I've found one. Not just anyone, but not one of your original wise men, but somebody out of the fugitives that you snatched from war, people you have already conquered, and he has the answer to your dream. Remember, the challenge in this story was not just to answer the dream, but to tell them what the dream was in the first place. I know I normally give you 3 points, but I got a bonus one for you today. Stop acting like this is the only time you've had to go through something that required real faith. Stop acting like this is the only time you had to go through something that required real faith. I am perplexed how some have stood on faith for what I would have constituted as dynamic things that would have crushed them. And to me, this pales in comparison. I want to remind you, this is not the only story. It's only one of several stories you will travel through. Learn to live with faith in the midst of a death sentence. Can I be honest with you? We all have a death sentence. From the day you were born, you were dying. I just went through a whole new scheme of VA tests, and you know what they told me? I'm dying. That's no, I'm not trying to reveal that I've got a stage 4 or something like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. But they did not give me any new revelation. Every morning I wake up, my body tells me, you dying. Every time I climb the stairs, my knees tell me, you dying. Every time I try and mow the lawn or climb that hill out the back of my house, my lungs tell me, you dying. Why do we celebrate testimonies and not realize what the word means? Test I for many. In order for you to have a testimony, you got to have a test. No test, no testimony. And in order to have a testimony, you've got to have a witness to your test. Let me say that again. In order to have a testimony, you must have a witness to your test. Now, let me give you proof. Whenever you go to court, right? Whenever you go to court, the prosecutor or your own lawyer brings somebody in called and that witness comes to give that's right. He comes to give a testimony of what they have seen. And so why are we falling back when this is only a testimony in action? How about living like you know God is able? We sing it all the time. God is able. Yeah, in many different forms. Well, why don't we live like God is able? You like that one, Pastor Tisha? Can I? Don't forget the lesson of yesterday. Don't forget what God's brought you through already. Don't forget. Don't let the enemy rob you of what God has done for you already. You see, in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel comes and he gives the dream. He gives the interpretation to the dream. And what should have been a death sentence for Daniel becomes a leapfrog for God's plan. I've come to tell some of you today what seems to be a death sentence for you is only a leapfrog for God's plan. You would not have had opportunity to be in the places you are if it was not for this death sentence. You would not have an opportunity to have the faith that you have if it was not for this death sentence. You would not be able to experience God the way you're experiencing God if it was not for this death sentence. And I'm here to tell you to walk in faith in the midst of a death sentence. I'm here to tell you today, don't give up on God. Don't quit on God. Don't look back, but look back knowing that he's already done it once and he will do it again. He is a faithful God in the beginning and he'll be a faithful God in the end. Even as the numbers climb, realize that the God who loves you, the God who has been beside you, the God who has worked with you, that same God is the God who's in control. Walk in faith in the midst of a death sentence. Y'all know the story about footprints in the sand? Simple story. It says there's a man having a conversation with God, and as he looks down over his life is shown in footprints in the sand. And he looks closer, he realizes that in those times of his life, when he was down and out, battered and bruised, really needing somebody, there was only one set of prints. And it puzzled him and confused him, and he looked at God and he said, God, I don't understand that every time it seems like I needed you most, when I was really down, when I really needed somebody to be near me, there was only one set of footprints. And the Lord turns around and says, I understand, my son, but in those times when you see single footprints, it's because I was carrying you. Look a little closer. See how much deeper those footprints are than the other footprints were. And I've come to remind somebody, look back and see those footprints. Look back and see what God has done in your life. Look back and see what God has said. Look back, see what God has promised. Look back and see those things that God brought you through. See those things that seem to almost end you that God brought you through. See those things that you thought was never going to let you go, but has let you go. See those things that God demanded that be broke off of you and have been broke off of you. Look back so that you can walk in the midst of this death sentence with faith that moves mountains. And as we walk through this Lenten period, remember what this period represents. This is the period for which Christ himself took upon himself the penalty for our sin. The Bible declares, by his stripes we are healed. And I don't know about you, but right now more than ever, I need to know now more than ever that by his stripes I am healed. See, that healed thing is past tense. That means that even before the disease comes, I am healed. He took these stripes for me 2,000 years ago because right now in 2020 I am healed. And that God who gave up his life for me and rose up again for me, the one who is right now praying for me on the side of his Father's throne, is still in control, still loving me, still healing me, still calling me, still walking with me, and I will never be alone. And I've come to tell you that in order to understand what God is doing, you must walk in faith in the midst of a death sentence. Come on, let's give God a hand of praise. God is a good God. God is a great God. God is a great God. God is a mighty God.